Hey, what's up, guys? Zach at ZR Chess, and today I am pretty excited about this. We're going to be going deep into the fianchetto king, uh, specifically attacking the fianchetto king and trying to open this up and attack the enemy king when he's in this formation. So we'll go into that. We'll go into a few different tools you can use to try to pry this open or sneak in a checkmate, and how to go about it. And so, I like to. My whole goal about this stuff is to put these in-depth ones out there for free, which isn't able to be found a lot on the internet. If you like the videos, go ahead and subscribe, like the video, and let me know what you think. So let's get started. The fianchetto is this right here. So this whole structure with the pawns like this with the king, and usually a bishop is sitting on g7 or g2 or wherever side the fianchetto is. So usually there's a bishop there and probably a knight here on f6 protecting h7, and it's a decent way to do things for certain openings. The queen's Indian, the king's Indian, sometimes in the English, the Sicilian dragon, which I do play, but it also creates weaknesses. Whenever you do this, you're creating weaknesses on these dark squares here because this pawn isn't here anymore to attack these, to defend these. So that's what the pawn normally does. And now that he's here, these are free game. So it's all about attacking this defender that's helping out the bishop, attacking the knight that's a defending h7, and we'll look at a few things here. So let's get started. Let's look at this first. We've got this recurring theme. So this is a fictional game, but this does happen quite often. So we get into a typical opening here, trade off, and then this is where it gets a little interesting. The fianchetto happens, and castle, normal opening, you see stuff like this all the time. Doesn't have to be this exactly. And then they castle, and they've got this fianchetto. The bishop's outside of the fianchetto, which you will see every now and then, even though it's not ideal. You don't want this if you don't have a defender in the middle here. It's just not a good idea for the most part. I see why he did it, because the rook is eyeing down, and we're going to win a knight for free, which is why this needs to happen here. And this is a scenario where white is forcing black to do this. So that is why he goes ahead and does that. So now I can't take this, and the bishop's pinned. He can go ahead and take back. Now we're gonna take advantage of this. This might seem counterintuitive because you've always learned rooks are better than bishops, but in this scenario, and it works in a lot of scenarios, sacrificing the rook exchange with the bishop is huge, because once queen takes, now we are going to be eyeing down on this knight, trying to get him out of the way and open up attacks on the king. So from here, we're actually going to play f3, attacking the knight. Now, if we're down in exchange right now and then we win a knight next turn, then we're definitely going to be up. So in order to save this knight, the black king must go to g7. And it's right where we want him, because now we're going to have a third attack, and it's going to get a little interesting here. Alright, so we're going to play knight g e4. And what this does is we're allowing the bishop or the pawn to take. Now, queen can't take because we'll take back, yada yada. Knight can't take because we'll take queen. So we're forcing here, because we're about to win his knight, and we're forcing the exchange with the pawn. And once he takes, we take back with the knight. So we're down a piece and an exchange at this point, but we have an overwhelming attack here. Incredible attack. We've got 3 pieces, and he's got no more pieces to defend this knight. So we're going to at least win the knight back. Okay. So what's he going to do? He's going to go ahead and take on e4. He can't take, remember, with this knight, because then we take the queen. So he's going to take on e4, thinking that his knight is protecting him here, but it's not. And that's still his best move according to the engine, but he's in such a bad place right now. We've got 2 ways we can go about this, right? First, we can check, and then after king goes back, we take the queen, and we are clearly winning. Also, we can take with the queen. And then once he goes back, then bishop h6, and the game is pretty much over. It's checkmate next move unless he does something, and the only way he can do something is to take d4 and stop checkmate, and then we take the queen, and it's going to be checkmate really soon. He's going to have to play f6, and then we're just going to play c4 check, and it's going to get really ugly really quick. So that is a reoccurring theme here that you'll see when this is set up this way. And you see that we've got a knight here. Our bishop's right in place here on g5. And we've got a knight, even if the pawn isn't here, that we only need one knight here. And we can start throwing attacks at this knight. And this sacrifice here is what makes that all possible. So just a phenomenal move. And instead of castling, he could have brought his bishop up and protected. But this is just as a side note here. He could have brought his bishop up and protected, but this is not a good move because, first of all, the white bishop, he's got nowhere to go. He's just as bad as he was here. He can't go on this diagonal. He can't, anywhere like that. And we're going to play f4. And next move, we're going to be breaking open this whole position and attacking this bishop. So great for us. Just a great position for us in general. If he does go ahead and castle here, then after f5, he doesn't want to take here because it ruins his whole king side, which he just castled, and he probably doesn't want to take here because same thing. He's gonna be getting his king side ruined. So very good for us. Let's go next. This I call the h6 attack. This comes up pretty often as well. You got the black bishop here on g7, let's say, and you want to get rid of it because it's a pretty big defender. So what a lot of people do, they've done it to me, I do it to people, and I don't always recommend it, but in the right situation, trading off these bishops is great. So f6 right away, fh6 right away. And then when the bishop takes, we take with the queen, and our queen is all up in his business. So it's great for us. We got rid of the main defender, and we can really start launching some attacks here. Maybe get the knight here eventually and threaten checkmate, or the knight here and start marching these pawns forward. And this is just going to be a really good game for white in this position. However, black doesn't have to take it right away. He can go back to h8. I've seen it before. It's not a good move because we're just going to go ahead and take the rook and begin to exchange up. Even though he might have better security now, And then I have also seen just playing any other move instead. Then we can go ahead and take king takes, and we're not up, but we got rid of the main defender. So that's the whole key point behind this h6 attack, is getting rid of that key defender. Now, when you don't want to get rid of this key defender, let's say we've got a really strong pawn on e5, and this bishop isn't doing anything, and our bishop is really good, we might not want to exchange. Or, let's say his bishop is blocked in by something, and it's just not doing anything, we might not want to exchange. It might not make sense. If this rook isn't here, let's make this dumb move, and the rook isn't here, and then we do this, he can actually come back to h8. I don't recommend it for black. I recommend not doing that, but he can do that, and then we still have a good scenario here, but he also still has a diagonal. So it's an option for him. Not one that I really condone, but it is an option. Okay. So sometimes someone will see you doing this. You just moved your bishop into position, and he wants to avoid it altogether, so he's going to go back to h8. This has happened before. I've had this happen before. So we're going to still go to h6, attack this rook, and take over this square, or at least fight for it. And once the rook goes to e8, we can come up to g5, attacking this queen. And we're not trying to win the queen here. We know that's not going to happen. But there's a couple ways this can go down. If he moves his queen, great. His queen is not doing anything back here, and we've got two great diagonals here in his territory. Or instead, if he doesn't do that, he might go to f6, trying to push us away, which is fantastic because look at this kingside pawn structure. It is gross. So we can just step in here. We can step in back to h6, and I'm not worried about anything here. He can, you might think, oh, you might get trapped. No big deal. He comes in here. It's not a problem. We'll bring our knight to e2, and then here, and we're going to be looking real good at this point. We might even come here, sacrifice with the queen, and then have some mating prospects in here. That looks good too, but we do have this nice pin, so our knight can come here if we would like. Having a pin on a diagonal versus a king like that is very sneaky, and it's a great way to come up with some prize attacks. Just by the way. Or we can just come back to e3 if this happens and his whole structure is ruined, and we can start coming at it from another angle. We can even bring the pawn up and hope to stop this pawn in its tracks, and that way this bishop isn't doing anything for him. Alright, so let's get into this next position here. We've got a middle game that's going to turn into an endgame real quick like here. So the usual bishop h6 as we see often, and looking to trade this off, and once he does, then we've got our queen in a great place like we talked about. Now there's a couple different things he can do here. One, he can just make a move like this, and we're going to target this knight here, is what we're going to do next. Now we're going to go ahead and go here and attack this pawn for checkmate, and now we're going to try to throw shots at the knight. So this is what we do if you just move the pawn there. We're just going to be eyeing down on h7. Now if he for some reason instead moves bishop c6, then we can go ahead and still play knight g5, and then the best move here, because we're looking to play pawn e5, we're either going to take the knight or we're going to get checkmate. So he's going to lose a knight here, essentially. So what he needs to do is queen d2. It's not pretty, but that's his only move here. So when we play knight e5, he takes our knight, and we end up a queen. So that's his best option there. So we're already destroying this game. Next, he's going to move out of the way, and the checkmate is soon coming. You can just tell. So he could do that. So instead of so instead of him playing queen d2, he could play rook e8, and we're going to do the same thing and just push forward and attack this knight. So it doesn't change a whole lot for us. And then he can move the knight away at that point, since he moved and made a spot for his king here. We're still going to take and give check, and it's going to be mate. So this is one to remember as well. If he tries to move the rook to make room for himself, it's not going to work if you have this knight here on an undefended pawn, because check and then mate. So works really well. Now, other than the knight move, if he moves queen to e7, then we can go ahead and take the knight, which we're going to do, and attack the queen, and we're threatening checkmate right here. So he really needs to do something. He's going to take the pawn back, and we're still going to take on h7, and king goes here, and now we can't take this anymore because the queen is protecting it. So what do you think the move should be here? If you want, pause the video, try to come up with a solution. But we're going to go ahead and play. You might think we're might be doing it over and over, but we're going queen f6. And the king can do two things here, neither of which are good. He can go back to g8, or he can come up to e7. E7 looks better on the surface. When I looked at this first, I thought e7 looked great, but when he does go e7, we're going to play a fun move, bishop takes e6. And what this is doing is winning the queen, because first of all, we're threatening to discover check. This is protected by our knight, so the pawn can take it, but it's not going to end up well. So he really needs to move his king back, and we're just going to get a free piece. Because pawn takes bishop, and then rook takes bishop, and check, and we're forking the queen and the king. So he has to take with the queen. We take, and we're up a whole lot of material here, especially after we trade off rooks. Queen for a rook and a bishop, much better, especially for 3 pawns as well. He can even give check here, and we've got 3 pawns going toward the end, and he's got nothing. He's all blocked in here. It would be a different story if we didn't have the queen, but so that's one to remember. That whole scenario here. I know we got a little carried away there, but bringing this in and attacking this knight on f6 in order to get this checkmate on h7, definitely one to put in your toolbox to use later. So we'll go on to the next one. This one's fun. This one we're gonna show both sides of it, and it's a fun checkmate. So go ahead and start up the game. It was a Sicilian, and we can see right here preparing the beginnings of it, bringing the bishop to g4. We see he's fianchettoed, so the bishop comes to g4, kind of preparing to get on one of these 2 squares in order to attack the king. Also, we can note it is pinning down this knight to the queen. So preparatory move, great move by black. So bishop takes, knight takes, and leaving that alone to bring the knight up to attack this. So we've got 2 attackers on this knight now, and he has 1 defender, so he's going to have to do something to defend it. He can't move out of the way. He can't take this knight, because then we take the queen. So he plays dc3, protecting the knight, so we've got another defender on it. So what are we going to do? We're going to attack it again, queen e7. And we really want this knight, or we want to lure him into giving us a checkmate. So at this point, bishop e4, blocking our view to the knight and opening up this square for a bishop to come in later, possibly. So we're going to play a fun one. See if you can find it. So we're going to come in with the knight, and if he does take the knight, then we're going to be fine with the bishop here. We're still pinning the knight to the queen, and we have an opening to bring the queen in later for checkmate. So looking good there, and if he doesn't take the knight, then he'll need to move the king to like g2, say, which on the surface looks like a good move because we can't come here anymore. And it's not a terrible move, but it's opens us up for some. So from here, knight g5, preparing to get the bishop here to attack the king and pin it to the rook. So he played knight d5, attacking the queen, hoping we won't do that, and try to find here the best move. It's a tricky one. This is a good puzzle. So unpause if you found it, and it's queen takes bishop e4. Now the reason being this forces a checkmate. The only reason you should ever sacrifice your queen, obviously. So that's a check. So after pawn takes d4, then bishop f3 check. Nothing he can do except come back here to g8 and then checkmate with a knight. Now that's a beautiful checkmate. Sacrifice a queen, just using a bishop and a knight. Fantastic. Very satisfying. We can also go back to the beginning of this game and see how the game could have been played differently here. Let's say black played e5, right? And let's see how white could flip a board. So playing again normal moves and the 3 knights defense, and we see an opportunity here. Okay, so the knight comes in and the bishop comes in this fianchetto position. So the fianchetto is made, he just needs to castle. So fun move, bishop to g5, threatening to take the queen. Black has to do something about this. He can't move the queen out of the way, so he's going to need to defend. And he does this by knight g7. So once he goes to e7, he relinquished these two squares for a possible knight attack later. It's good to note. He does have this knight pinned to the queen now. We've got 2 attackers on it, but he has 3 defenders at the moment. So the next one is knight e4. Looking like we just gave away a knight. But we're drawing the bishop out here. So when the bishop takes, now the queen's going to take. Threatening checkmate right here. And knight has to take, which knight wants to take anyway most of the time. So then knight f6 check, king f8, and checkmate. Beautiful checkmate, also by a knight and a bishop, made possible because of the fianchetto. The fianchetto is a weakness if you know how to exploit it. Different ways like this, like the knight and the bishop coming in and making a fabulous checkmate because of cutting off this square and the knight's cutting off these squares on the side. It's really a beautiful way to end the game. So keep this one in your toolbox as well. Lastly, let's go through this one here. And it starts off with okay, so we're pinning the knight to the king. Queen gets out of the way and is preparing to fianchetto. Black goes ahead and fianchettos. Right, and then the bishop trades off with the knight. And then the knight comes in, attacking the queen. Alright. And so the queen moves back, and now we've got this nice straight line to the king, to h1. Rook comes up. It was a great idea for attacking the king. I know he doesn't have the fianchetto yet, but it's coming. So the rook coming up is just a great idea in general if you've got this f-pawn moved, especially, because now you can just come over here and attack down on the king. So the knight moves back, attacking our knight. h6, attacking this h2 square pretty heavily now. And there it is. The fianchetto, which the bishop is not in. Not the best idea. I see why he did it, because if he played a dumb move, then queen h4. And there's a lot of fire coming on you there. You can do this, but after something like this, it can get really messy. You're not looking so hot. So he played g3. And maybe not the soundest thing, but you can't blame a guy for not wanting to get checkmated. So h4 is the next move. So pause your video and think about what the next move should be. This is a very subtle move. That's I shouldn't say subtle. It's a powerful move. That's unthought of, outside the box. Alright, so it is queen h4, which is a beautiful attack on the king. And so this pawn here was supposed to prevent this, but it didn't do that at all. Because if we look here, let's say a couple different scenarios that can happen. Pawn takes queen, then we have check. And he can move to the side. He can't block because we're just going to take. So he has to move. And then it's checkmate because of the double attack and our rook. So that is a beautiful sacrifice at that point. So he can't take with the pawn. He can try to play knight f3 would be the other one. So he can play knight f3, protecting h2 and attacking our queen at the same time. And we're just going to play knight g5. So if he does go ahead and take us, it's going to be the same exact story. So he takes on h4, and then we've got the check, and we're set up for this. After bishop takes and check, then the game's over, because after h1, bishop takes. An awesome checkmate to be able to open this up that way. And finish it off. Okay, and that's all I have for the fianchetto, for attacking the fianchetto. The king, these are a lot of different tools you can use to try to pry open the defense and get some sneaky checkmates in. I hope it was helpful. Let me know. Let me know if you have any other ideas that I should add to the toolbox. And I hope to see you guys next time. If you like the video, subscribe so you see more of these. And thanks for watching.